Hey folks, Ethermood here, and I know it's been quite a while since my last upload, and while I wish I would have some excuse as to why, I don't. So today we're going to look at the brand new benchmark trailer from Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. Now, I know as far as battle content is concerned, a lot of us, myself included, are rather information starved, I guess is the best term. We won't know any specifics about the changes that they are making until the media tour going on in mid-September and the coinciding live letter that goes alongside that. However, we did get a sneak peek into the potential things that they are going to be showing us, and that is what I intend to sort of pick through today. There were two sections within the benchmark trailer that we got that had battle content in it, and so those are what we're going to be looking at today. The first of these is a massive, big scale battle with a bunch of characters and doing a bunch of different things. And the second is a more commonplace 8-man battle. Less people, more area to focus, but still equally as active. So what we're going to do is I have both of these pulled up. You're going to be seeing them on the screen in a moment. This will be the raw footage straight from the Final Fantasy XIV YouTube. I'll link the video there in case you haven't watched it for yourself yet. Highly recommend it. And then after, I went ahead and I slowed things down so we can get nice and comfortable and really pick apart some of these new things that we're seeing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and watch us some battle content, shall we? Alright. And with that now sufficiently taken care of, if you are not excited, that's on you. I know I for one am, and everything that I saw in those two little glimpses have me so excited that it prompted me to make this video. So, the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to slow things down. It'll be the same footage, but at 0.25 its original playback speed. And we're going to talk about what we see. As I mentioned previously, I also have some footage captured from in-game that I'm going to sort of interlace with the footage that we see here, just to compare, contrast, see how things might be playing in. But before any of that, I want to mention, none of this is final. Take everything with a grain of salt. Everything is 100% speculation, because we don't know. So, with that, let's bring up the new footage and see what we can see. Alright, so coming into things, the first thing that we notice is that there are a ton of things on screen. This is indicative of the benchmark in and of itself. It's meant to push your experience to the limit to see how your hardware handles particle effects and many characters on screen. But the first new thing that we see here is our warrior friend going into what appears to be a 3-swing axeless melee combo. Now, from what I can gather with this, it appears to resemble Upheaval, which is a skill that we have already, that is a 3-hit melee combo, OGCD, that uses 20 beast gauge to just deliver an attack. Now, this resembles that in so fact of you drop your axe just to punch the crap out of your enemies. But what strikes me as interesting is that it's AoE, because the two characters that we see them fighting both flinch on impact, which I personally find curious. Moving on to our samurai friend here, they appear to be using another AoE skill, but this one resembling Shoha. While expending your Sen on your Yaijutsu strikes, you build up stacks of meditation. At 3 stacks of meditation, you get to use this ability called Shoha. It's an OGCD, delivers a 400 potency attack, and that's it. You use that anytime you have 3 stacks of meditation. This one appears to have a similar visual effect, but instead of just being a single target, it's AoE. For our dancer here, it's interesting to see a new dance for them, this one being blue in color and appearing shorter range than the other dances. I'm not entirely sure if that's just my eyes playing tricks on me, or if that's actually what's happening, but to me, it appears that the enemies around them are the only ones taking damage. Moving on to our monk here, they appear to be doing a, if you count it, 2-hit tornado kick style attack. Now, tornado kick has been reworked from previous iterations, where it is now an off-global cooldown that you can press every 45 seconds for a 400 potency attack. Now, whether or not this will share the same cooldown, or if this is just an upgraded version, we're not sure. But the footage that I have seems to lean towards a different skill, if not the same animation. But we'll just have to wait and see. Now, moving over to our tank friends here, we notice some interesting things happening. The first of which, I'm going to focus on the Dark Knight, because they seem to be enveloping themselves in some form of dark bubble. Now, this could be any number of things, as we already have a number of abilities that resemble this in the form of Shadow Wall, their big cooldown, Dark Mind, which reduces their damage taken, but most notably it looks a lot like the Blackest Night. Whether or not this is an iteration of the Blackest Night, or if it's something unique unto itself, we're unsure. However, the resemblance is uncanny. On the Paladin side, however, we see them enveloping themselves in a ring of shields. That's all I got. It resembles a number of their abilities they have already, namely Sheltron, which is their primary defensive gauge spending ability. It costs 50 Oath Gauge to block all incoming attacks. However, this seems much more grandiose than Sheltron. I can, of course, only speculate as to what its purpose is, but it's a personal defensive buff for both of them, one can imagine, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. With our ninja, they seem to be summoning a shadow clone that charges forward and performs what I can assume to be an AoE wind aspected ability. What leads me to believe its AoE is the size of the field, and from what it looks like, the shadow clone sticks around after the camera pans away for a few moments. So I'm not sure if this is a persistent AoE or what it could be, but it seems to spend Ninki, as that's the only thing that is used to summon shadow clones. However, they are in the Mudra stance, but I know quite a few abilities share this stance that the ninja has, so we'll have to wait and see. Our next point of interest is this shot coming into screen here relatively soon. That is a Heat Blast. This is the exact same animation that the Machinist already has, so that is not a new skill. However, as our two friends here are more than happy to demonstrate, they're both going to be coming in with some interesting things. The Red Mage first casts this lightning cage around one of these creatures. To me, that resembles nothing that we have, obviously, but if I had to wager a guess, I would say it's potentially a damage over time ability, as that's one of the things that Red Mage is currently lacking. But who knows? It looks neat, that's for sure. The two of them use some abilities that we know they already have, but the Machinist decides that they've had enough and is just going to pull out a shotgun. The Machinist has a number of close-range AoE abilities as it is, as they have Spread Shot, they have Bioblaster, they have their Flamethrower, they have their Auto Crossbow that can only be activated while in Hypercharge. However, they are distinctly not in Hypercharge. So I believe it's safe to say that this is not an upgraded Auto Crossbow. What this is an upgrade of, who knows? But they have a shotgun, which is awesome. Moving things along, as we pan back to the main battlefield, we can see that there is an incredibly large lightning orb. It's safe to say that it is not the Red Mage casting this, as looking in the direction they are throwing their fire. It's similar, but too distant. If I had to wager a guess, I would say this is an upgraded version of Thunder 4 from the Black Mage. Now, what that says for the Black Mage's Thunder, I don't know, but that's what it looks like to me. So that's what I'm going to hedge my bets on. Now, panning back over to everybody, we see abilities we already know. We see Flare, we see Refulgent Arrow, we see Emergency Tactics from the Scholar, Chain Stratagem. But coming back and zooming in on these two Black Mages, they are casting a new fire ability. It looks to be an orb of fire descending upon this beholder-like entity and then exploding. Whether or not it's single target or AoE remains to be seen, as it only hits one enemy. However, it is distinctly a new fire ability, as we have Fire, Fire 3, Fire 2, Despair, Fire 4, Flare already. I am willing to guess that this is an upgraded version of Fire 2, as currently the Black Mage's AoE rotation is Freeze and Flare. And that's about it. And that, to me, while yes is fun, doesn't seem very interesting. So I'm curious to see if this is a new Fire AoE ability that we can spend our Umbral Hearts on. So I know this isn't anything for us, but seeing our allies have new attack animations is interesting to me. Because for the longest time they've only done these regular basic attacks. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with the trust system moving forward. Now this scene coming up is interesting, because if you'll remember in one of the previous live letters during FanFest, the main scenario writer really heavily recommended doing the Omega Raid series. This is leading me to believe that it's probably a bit more important than they were letting on. I don't know what Omega has planned, but I am certainly interested to find out. So here we get our first look at Alphino using his AoE healing ability as a Sage, reminiscent of Medica or Helios from the White Mage and Astrologian respectively. It's nice to see that he apparently has very short cast times like the Astrologian, which I, for one, am very pleased to see. So with the gang all here, we get our next look at a couple of new abilities. The first one coming from the Scholar, who uses an ability similar to Excogitation, tearing a page out of their book and giving a buff to our meteor friend here, and one from our White Mage as well. Now, looking at both of these abilities, the Scholar gives them some form of healing buff, whereas the White Mage gives them a shield, similar to Divine Benison. I say similar because they are not the same, as we already have Divine Benison in the game, and the animation is slightly different. The effect, I'm guessing, remains the same, however, its connotations are potentially edited, as we know that the healers are being divided into Pure Healer and Barrier Healer, the two of these having their individual quirks and mechanics, but I can definitely see the need for having some abilities from the other in each healer. So the White Mage giving our friend a shield, and the Scholar giving them what I can surmise to be a regen. It makes sense. Now, moving over to our second bit of footage here, we have our 8-man battle. And there are quite a few things to pick out here. The first of which being a new ability that I am here unto dubbing Lunar Arcana from our Astrologian. Similar to the White Mage, the Astrologian is being shifted to a more pure healer role, so it would make sense to give them a similar defensive shield buff to sort of synergize more with the White Mage. I, for one, hope they stack. I don't know if they will, but that would be great. The second thing we see is the Dragoon performing a new jumping lance attack, where they stick their spear in the ground, do a series of kicks, and then leap upwards. Where that's going to fit in their combo, I have no idea, but it certainly looks neat. Moving on to our Gunbreaker, they have a new burst ability. It looks to be an enhanced burst strike, using one of their cartridges for the abilities they have already, that being the continuation combo, as well as burst strike and faded circle. If I had to wager a guess, I would say it is probably an ability that spends both of their cartridges in a bigger attack. Something that you would save up and spend between your continuation combo, perhaps. It would certainly make things more interesting. Shifting over to the other side of the field, we see another look at some Sage abilities from Alphino. This one appears to be a ring of shots from the neoliths. Whether this is the dot or the spammable attack like glare or broil, we don't know. But since it's appeared several times in this collection of footage, I'm inclined to believe that it's the spammable ability. Shifting things over to the bard here, we see a number of arrows that vaguely resemble the refulgent arrow animation, which leads me to believe that this is an AoE version of a straight shot proc. Spamming your burst shot and getting your straight shot, you can spend it on either refulgent arrow for single target, or presumably this ability for AoE implications, which I think is a good addition to Bard. They need a bit more than that, but we'll have to wait until September to see. Next up, interestingly, is the Summoner with a dash attack. Now, I know summoners are in an interesting place currently with their pet actions and such. I am going to hold off judgments on what I want for Summoner until I see what the dev team has planned, but this definitely piques my interest in a number of different ways. Into our last little bits of this footage, we have our best friend coming to save the day, or Ronet. Now, while I desperately want more information on Reaper, I am not going to guess at most of the things that Xenos does, because I'm just going to attribute it to be resonant nonsense. Because let's be fair, he is doing a lot of things that don't make sense in the Reaper aesthetic. However, I would like to draw attention to one piece of animation that has piqued my curiosity, in that there appears to be a swirling bluish vortex around Xenos when Alice goes in for a strike. Now, whether or not this is something akin to the Samurai's Third Eye, where they have a form of a counter ability, or if this is just more flashy particle effects to really test your graphics card's capabilities, I'm not sure. But I did want to draw attention to it because it seemed intentional. Speaking of seeming intentional, I really want this to be Reaper's Limit Break 3. Seeing, of course, Alfredo throw up his instant cast cubic shield is fantastic, but I really want this to be Reaper's Limit Break 3. It looks very, very aesthetically pleasing, but I guess we're going to have to wait and see. And with that, I believe that brings us to the end of the footage. I'm curious if you guys think I missed anything, or if you have any guesses, any theories. I would love to have a conversation down in the comments. If you liked what you saw, please feel free to press like. And if you think I did a good job, let me know. I can't say when the next video I'll release will be, because as we know, my track record for making promises is awful. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the media tour in mid-September, where we will get some more definitive answers. But for now, take care.